Ralph W. Sevinor from the National Alarm Museum, and I'm here in San Francisco at the California Alarm Association meeting, and it is December 2024, and we're delighted to introduce Lou Fiore, and I'm going to turn it over to a friend of mine, John Sargent. So John, you can take it from there.
All right. Well, I'm very honored and happy to be here with Lou Fiore this time. We worked together at National Guardian a long time ago, and so you are an industry icon. And let's get started. But let's start when you were young.
Icons go on little things in churches. When I was young, how did I get started in the?
Well, how about where did you grow up?
In the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Bronx, New York, just off Fordham Road.
All right.
The Italian section.
And then, did you have anything you wanted to be when you were a kid growing up, or?
I used to say I wanted to be an electrical engineer, and I didn't really understand why.
Is that right?
I must have heard somewhere that was a good place to be.
Okay.
Did you tinker, Heathkits, anything like that?
I did. Well, even before that, I lived around the corner from a distributor called FIORE Radio.
Oh, of course.
Northeast kind of a thing, literally around the corner.
Right.
And they had this little crystal set, very easy to put together. I must have been in grade school. I put this thing together, and
was that the cat's whisker?
yeah, exactly, a little galenium,
Yeah.
galena, crystal embedded in solder, and a little cat's whisker, tuning circuit, and headphones. That's all it was.
Right. No battery.
No batteries. So it worked on the RF signal, it decoded the RF signal, and if you had enough, it would last your years. Fortunately for me, WCBS.
And how old were you at the time?
I was in grammar school, I don't know, 10, 12.
Right.
WCBS 880 out in New Rochelle, New York, maybe 4 miles away, had a potent signal. And it was amazing. This thing was happening, right? Shortly thereafter, my parents had what is called a All-American 5 radio.
The tubes.
The tubes, series filaments, adding up to 110 volts, 5 tubes, hot chassis, no power transformer. So if you got between that and ground, you would actually probably with electric.
You'd be part of the circuit.
You would know, right? You would know that you hit the thing. This was the most popular radio at the time. I think it started in the 30s back through the 60s. They were making these 5 All-American radios, the 5 tube radios, and of course we had one. And I found something magical happen in the evening. Didn't know exactly what was going on at the time, and found out later that the D layer, the atmospheric, that's about 40 miles, 50 miles up, disappears at night. It gets consolidated into the E layer, the layer above
I
it.
understand, yeah.
And it doesn't absorb the frequencies from the AM radio stations. So you could hear stations hundreds of miles away. I thought that was phenomenal. And I would send them reports, and they would send me cards, confirmation cards. And went at high school, literally across the street, Fordham Prep, on the Fordham campus. And I found this other fella, Tom, who had similar interests. We discovered there was a radio club in the school, up on the top floor of the prep building. Went up there one day, and they were on the air. They had an amateur radio station there. I didn't even know what amateur radio was at the time.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. That's it. I was hooked. Wanted to become a radio amateur, which I did at the lowest level, the novice, which is a one-year license. I don't know what it is now.
So you were doing Morse code.
Well, I was doing Morse code. You had to do 5 words a minute.
5 words a minute, yeah.
Now you don't have, there's no code requirement. I had trouble getting my code speed up to 13, which I needed for the general. And I finally got that in 1960 when I graduated high school, got my general, and also at the same time, for whatever reason, I don't know, I studied on how to get a first-class commercial license. The same FCC office in Lower Manhattan did it all. Went in there, I got the general the same day I got my first class commercial radio telephone license, which means I could operate theoretically any radio station in the United States, or a broadcast station. I had no need to have it, except I liked the certificate up on the wall. So that puts me what?
So you were technical, right,
Yeah,
right off the bat.
Yeah, I was technical off the bat.
Okay.
So I put together my amateur radio station, and another nice thing that happened, purely not of my doing, was there's an 11-year sunspot cycle. We're in cycle 25 right now. It's going to peak in 2025. That was cycle 19. It was the highest ever recorded. And you could talk all over the world with just a few watts. Incredible. So I was right in the middle of it. I was thrown in this phenomenal hobby where I could get on the radio. In the afternoon, I'd come back from school, and I had a fella in Africa. He was in Rhodesia, which the country doesn't exist anymore. It got absorbed into something else. A fella in Birdlip, England, which is just outside of London. A NASA guy in the Caribbean, in Grand Turk Island. We would get on every day and talk to each other in the afternoon. It was phenomenal, right? Another nice thing that happened.
By voice or
by
code?
voice. It was awesome. I wasn't a code guy. I mean, I got my code speed up to 13, and that was the last time I touched the key, which a lot of hams would not like me to do. But now, by the way, that requirement has gone away. But one day, a funny story. I'm on the 40-meter band, 7 megacycles, 7.2 something, the voice channel, the voice part of the band. And I get a phone call, not a phone call, I'm sorry, I get a call from a maritime mobile out in the middle of the Atlantic. It was the USS Randolph, which is an aircraft carrier, on his way to Norfolk. And he said, Lou, can you handle phone patches? I could handle phone patch. It was a box I built that tied my radio, actually through the microphone jack and through the speaker jack onto a phone line. Illegal in those days because AT&T doesn't like anything on their lines except their own telephones, right? So yes, I can do phone patches. So he said, we have these sailors who want to talk home. And they, one by one, these sailors came into the Radio Shack on the Randolph and connected to their wives, girlfriends, or whatever, mothers or fathers. Oh, it must have been a dozen of them, maybe more.
So was it duplex? Did you have to key
it? Duplex. Oh, well, hold on. No, it's half. The radio was half duplex. Simplex. Turn, it would say over, and you would flip it back.
Right.
That was all fine. I felt very good about that. And by the way, the Randolph was used to pick up astronauts, probably coming back from one of the Mercury ones or something, early on. Till the phone bill came. In those days, long distance phone calls. My dad opens up the phone bill, and I must have had a heart attack. What is this? And that's what I explained to him. I guess he let me have it. It was all right, But it was an interesting moment. But listen, I was doing something for the boys in the Navy. So anyway, what was that? That's high school, okay? And I'm sorry, it was college at that point. And I got my engineering degree.
You went to City University, New York?
No, actually, I was accepted there, but I went to Manhattan College, and which is now Manhattan University. A good school. So was CCNY, a very good school. Interesting thing is this friend Tom that I mentioned earlier. It was a lot I can relate to him, but he was involved in trying to get into like pirate radio. He and his friend Joe Marchesani, Tom Luciani, Joe Marchesani, good two Italian guys. They lived in another neighborhood in the Pelham Bay section. They were big into oldies, R&B from groups that only made 2 or 3 hits, but had a lot of hits that didn't make it. And they used to collect these old discs that nobody wanted, if you will. They used to actually go on road trips.
You're not talking CD discs.
No, these are
phonograph
45, 70
records. Yeah,
right. Remember those?
Yeah, I do.
So they had, in fact, Joe had quite a collection of them. And they started a show called the Time Capsule Show. But
And what year are we talking about now?
we're talking about, at that point, we're at, I'd say 60, plus or minus. Might have been a little earlier than that. They wanted to get, well, no, 60 is when I got, that summer of 60 is when I got the first class commercial. So it would have been after that, 61, 62. And I'll tell you why that date's important. It's because they wanted to set up a pirate station. And I don't know if you guys know about Cortlandt Street, Radio Row, now then it became the World Trade Center. They had all these radios from World War II and the Korean War, selling for pennies on the dollar. And they bought this ARC 5. They had several versions of the ARC 5, but the one they had was the one that worked around 2 megahertz. These are old Army and
Surplus.
Army Air Force, or Army Air Corps, right, as it was called back then, and Navy surplus. So they bought one of these things and they wanted me to convert it to the broadcast band. They had picked this channel at 1620. So I said, Tom, I got an amateur radio license and I'm a first class commercial. The FCC is going to throw the book at me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I can't help you. They found some guy who did in fact convert this radio. They get on the air.
How much power?
About 50 watts, 50, 75 watts, something like that. Put up a decent antenna, you can go quite a ways. And they were doing this for weeks. One day, a truck driver in Delaware hears them on the radio. And they don't announce where they're from.
Is it a radio station?
Yeah, WKCR, okay. They cited as professional as anybody.
Yeah.
What they would do is they would record their program and then play the tape and go downstairs and see what was going on because they were worried about the FCC coming around.
Understandable.
Well, sure enough, one day, this truck bristling with antennas goes down the street, and this one version of the story.
What about the guy from Delaware?
He calls the FCC, contacts the FCC, and he says, "This is WKCR that I'm hearing on 1620. Where are they? I like the music. I want to talk to them." So the next thing you know, they send out this truck.
Yeah, sure.
And they're going down the street, and a guy comes out of there, and there's Tom out there with his portable radio listening to himself. The guy says, "Hey kid, do you know who this is?" And he says, "No, I have no idea, because it's him." So they immediately shut down this thing, and Tom's father advises them to go to the FCC and turn themselves in. And she does. And all they wanted was, there was no penalty except they wanted the radio.
Sure.
And I remember in college, I went to what was called the IRE, Institute of Radio Engineers, which is now the IEEE. They had an exhibition in Manhattan. It was a trade show. And in there, the FCC had set up a booth, and they had their radio in there.
Is that right?
This is what we do. If you try to get into pirate radio, you can get it. Anyway, jump ahead, what do? They're both going to college at this point. Tom is in the business school at Fordham, and Joe is in the communication arts department. They convinced WFUV, which is the educational FM station at Fordham, to give them an hour on Thursdays. So then they go back to me and they said, "Lou, you want to be our engineer?" And I said, "Sure, I'll do it." They had an opening, so I got Thursday night was my slot. And because I had the first class commercial license, it was the first time I could actually use it. Got me into broadcast radio. Albeit
Back then, did they need an engineer on?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Nowadays, if you have a station like that, it's up to the owner. The onus is on the owner to make sure he has good technical people. In those days, the FCC wanted this license.
Right.
I don't know when it changed along the way, but it did change. Deregulation, I guess.
Mm.
So now I'm in broadcast radio. My slot was Thursday night, but I was there a lot. I helped the communication arts guys edit tapes and whatever. Now, get out of college, I go to work for CBS Labs, and as an engineer, and we did work for the U.S. Army, the Navy, NASA, and CBS themselves, CBS Radio and CBS Columbia Records. Was there through about, 73, actually, 73. And the next question, I guess, is how did you get into the alarm industry? Right now, I'm doing I'm doing this work, little bit of stuff, and the Vietnam War was winding down. A lot of the work we did was related to the Vietnam War. Built a mortar locator. I built not alone, but one of the engineers involved, we built a simulated acoustical mannequin, SAM, which helped astronauts, helped them, not the astronauts themselves, but a selection of headphones and microphones. This was a top of looked like a mannequin, if you will, and had the same kind of characteristics as the human voice and the human hearing. Fletcher-Munson curves, if you ever heard of the Fletcher-Munson curves. Two doctors came up with this. And the Fletcher-Munson curves was the hardest part to do. You had to duplicate that. As volume goes down, your frequency response changes, and this did all this. So you could objectively choose the best set of headphones and all that. Anyway, that was one of the things we did. I did some work with CBS Radio. But the Vietnam War, a lot of it was Vietnam related, but the war was winding down, and I had time to go out and do something else. And there was an old ad in the New York City subways. It said, I found my job through the New York Times. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's a New York City thing, but they used to have an ad in the subway cars. I answered a blind ad, Sunday classifieds, and it was a blind ad put in there by Tony Grosso of ADT looking for a manager in the engineering department. Answered it, went in, I got the interview, got the job. So now I'm the R&D, that section of it was divided into three sections. It had what was called the electrical engineering section, the communication section, and the software development, which is the central station computers that they were building. So I was in charge of like a third of the group, which was all the stuff that was installed in the home and the business. Wasn't that much residential back then, but we had smoke detectors, ultrasound, I mean, all kinds of stuff. But
so they were still manufacturing. ADT was manufacturing.
Manufacturing out in Clifton.
Okay.
And it was about the time they should have changed that, and I guess, helped them do that. We went out and found other people that were building equipment much better than we could do it ourselves with these limited resources. The fellow that ran the communications side, they moved him out to manufacturing in Clifton, and they gave me that. So I had both that part, the in-house, or on premises, and the communications part. Get back to radio again, right? There was some radio involved in there. Jeremiah Courtney, what used before the Bluestone Group, was instrumental in getting frequencies of 900 megahertz, exclusive for the alarm industry. But they never used them. They literally never used them. There was a beta site set up. Grosso went over to Japan and got some 900 megahertz radios. Went them over and we tried to test them, but it never went anywhere. But so we were involved in radio. It would have been good because that was a good frequency to be at. And if we had exclusivity, even better. Anyway, so I'm working at ADT. I worked there through 81. I got involved in radio again when we bought a company that made a citizens band radio, 27 megahertz. You remember Moose Products?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Moose had this thing and sold it to ADT. We manufactured it in Clifton. And it was a hands-off thing. I had nothing to do with it except that when it didn't work, I somehow had the knack of doing troubleshooting. I had my own way of doing troubleshooting, and it seemed to work. I wouldn't really reveal my secrets, but they installed a system in Saudi Arabia. At the police station in Saudi Arabia, they were monitoring banks and places where they had gold and all this.
Any issues with, I want to call it FCC, but I'm sure they had their own. Did they get their own licensing or?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I assume they You know, whatever they wanted to do, they did.
Right, right,
When they had their system, it didn't work very well. So FIORE, get over there and fix it. So I go to Saudi Arabia, I had to get a visa, kinds of shots I had to get before I could go, and I went over there, spent 8 days in Saudi Arabia. It was I looked at this thing, and it was trying to defy the laws of physics. It really wasn't going to work. It had some flaws in it. So I reported that back, and they said, well, go find us the system that works. So okay, so I found Seaboard, I found Digisec. Digisec became AlarmNet A. I think Honeywell bought them.
right.
And I was, I did my part. There was a fellow named Ted Geisler who owned a company called Stellar Systems down here in Los Gatos, I think, not far from here. And we were walking around the ISC show. Back then it was at Uptown. It wasn't at the, I don't think Javits existed then. And we walked by a booth. Probably it was Jerry Hacker at Seaboard's. And he says, Lou, can you build one of these? I said, sure. Right? So well, let's start a company. Okay. So we talked some more, and finally I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I started Cardinal Systems. So I built a 450.
Oh, I didn't realize you started that.
Yeah, I built a 450 radio company. Let me just do my thing. And oddly enough, in New Rochelle, I moved not far from where Hacker was. And of course he said, oh, they stole stuff from me. It had nothing to do with it. He was on a different frequency. It had absolutely nothing to do with each other. And the way my radios worked, the kind of knowledge I had picked up from ADT, which is what he should have done, learn how the industry wanted to do this stuff. And anyway, we sold that company to Radionics. And I went to work for Repco, and there I was out, was doing some consulting work, and a fellow worked at National Guardian, had found Repco, and he said, I think you can help these guys. And again, nothing, and National Guardian, nothing to do with National Guardian,
right.
except this guy, I knew him well. And you can help these guys.
Was this the same time, John, you were at National Guardian?
Our company was bought by National Guardian in May of 1985.
85.
So about the same time?
Well, I wasn't at National Guardian. I started in National Guardian in 86.
86, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I was there earlier, I'll tell you in a minute. But this was in the early 80s, 83 or something like that. I met the folks at Repco, and they said, so are you doing consulting work? I said, maybe you could write software for us. And we had all this hardware, and they wanted to, to set up a polling network on radio. So I right away grabbed software. I mean, I did. I got a degree in computer science from NYU after Manhattan College, and you have to write software in order to get through the engineering world. You got to write software. So I got this job to write software, and I wrote it, and it worked, right? So the guy, the president of Repco, says, Lou, you seem to know a lot of people in the industry, you know what you're doing. Why don't you come to work for us? We'll set up a separate division. Okay. Now I'm in Orlando, Florida. I'm working in Orlando, Florida for this company. And I was there for till that's about 83-ish. Now it's the late 85. And I don't know, it was rough back and forth, and talked to my buddy at National Guardian, and he says, they could use you there in specifying equipment in the alarm industry and all. So, okay, so I talked to them, and I talked to my boss at the then president at Repco, who he and I were good friends. And I said, why don't I consult for both companies? I did 2 weeks and 2 weeks. I didn't want to leave my customers Repco that I had sold this equipment in, where Lou go, right? So I stayed with him. So I'm going literally back and forth between Greenwich, Connecticut and Orlando, Florida. A guy I'm working for at National Guardian, a guy by the name of Wilbur Wachter, wants to go back to his old company, which, by the way, he and George Flake came from. So that job's open. And I go to George Flagg's office one day, and I said, George, what happened? Wilbur left? He said, yeah, well, we have a search going for a new guy. And he said, what about me? And he said, well, we thought you were a happy consulting. And I said, no, I could do this. So hey, we talked a little while, and he offered me the job, and now I'm doing Wilbur Wachter's job, which was Director of Purchasing. So I said, one thing I want to do, can we change the title to Director of Engineering? And he did. And now a year or so later, he made me a vice president. So now I'm vice president of engineering at National Guardian. And I think it was the most fun I ever had in a position. It was
Because of the culture or the job?
it was a well-managed company, the culture, and George let me do whatever the hell I wanted. You remember George?
So yeah.
He's a great guy. He just let me do whatever I wanted. And he was happy. Nobody complained what I did, and it was just a fun environment, and we kept growing, going like mad, and it was all the right things going, except when Lep screwed the whole thing
Yeah,
up.
but we were acquiring all over the place.
Oh God, yes, and growing organically too.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think we spoke about this thing. There was a company out here called Prudential, and the National Guardian bought the company, but it had a little manufacturing company in Antioch. And so George comes into my office one day and he says, I just bought this company called Prudential. It has a little, they wouldn't make the deal unless I bought the little manufacturing company.
What did they manufacture?
Power supplies, mainly power supplies, that kind of thing, maybe enunciators.
For the industry?
Yeah, for our industry. And they did a lot of work for radionics, incidentally. Which radionics, private label stuff. And he says, I wouldn't sell the company unless I bought this thing, so it's yours. You have fun with it. You're managing it. So next thing I know, I'm running his little manufacturing company, which was great because the fellow that worked for me we were building little cellular units. Back then, the amps, remember amps?
Oh, sure.
First generation.
First gen.
We'd buy these bricks from Motorola and put them in a box and all of the right connectors and all that, power supply, and we would use them for people that wanted basically another way to communicate. You could actually plug in your dialer into the thing and it would work. Actually, we did it, it was redundant, okay? And he was literally building these in his garage in outside of Tampa. So we decided, now we have this manufacturing company out here. They built them. So we had a new purpose for them. They were turning out a lot of these things. Then another interesting thing. We had a silent watchman division, which was national accounts, and they didn't want to change the name from Silent Watchman. They wanted to keep it as Silent Watchman rather than call it National Guardian. It's another part of National Guardian. So the Silent Watchman division did national accounts, and they're doing pretty well. Fella that ran it one day comes to me. He says, "Lou, we're having a problem. We can't do any AA for all these, line security for all these. What we're doing. You go to J.C. Penney's. They have the J.C. Penney account nationally. They could install everything in a National Guardian. I'm sorry, in a J.C. Penney site except the fine jewelry, because they needed AA. And they had to give it to a local competitor or the ADT, which meant your competitor has their nose under the tent, right? So, is there any way we could do AA nationally? I said, really, no. It's maybe satellites, and God knows what that would cost. Then there were two companies, now over the course of a few months, Bell South Mobility had this thing they used, the Mobitex.
Mobitex, yeah.
Remember Mobitex? And Artis.
Artist was satellite, I thought.
No. Well, maybe they had satellites, but not when I was. Maybe, yep.
Artist.
Artis was an 800 megahertz, 850,
Okay.
and they had towers. And in fact,
Artist. Pagers?
well, they had a two-way radio system.
Okay.
As Mobitex did. It was equivalent, different frequency, but it was equivalent. The difference is Mobitex worked along highways, and Artis was a joint venture of Motorola and IBM, and their focus was buildings, city centers. They wanted to get into the bowels of the building for their service, the IBM service people.
Right.
Both of them called on me because they wanted to sell units for our service people. They could walk around with this thing, communicate back, and they were kind of expensive. And I don't think I don't know, maybe we needed them, maybe we didn't. But what intrigued me was that maybe there's a way to use this for radio communications. For Fairmont. So the vice president of engineering for Artis, I think his last name is Burke. And they were in Lincolnshire, Illinois, not far from UL. We had a long discussion. We sat on a blackboard in his office and we came up with a protocol that would work. So now we needed, Motorola was involved because they made the modems. I needed somebody to come up with and integrate that into a control set called Kostusiak. Be glad to do it. Called to one of his residents. He's trying to, he's competing with radionics, because he ended up buying radionics. Right. He's competing with radionics and he's trying to get his foot in the door into the commercial business. And he found a way. So, okay, we'll build this unit, we'll attach it to one of these control sets. And we needed software. MAS, we were using MAS. We're probably one of the biggest users of MAS back then, if not the biggest. And Steve Kiefer from MAS said, we want to get into the receiver business. So he worked out, we took an IBM PC, had a UL listed, and that became the head end. Right. We put those at every one of our central stations. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself because what happened, I did this for the Silent Watchman division, right? Oh, one step. We added up the artist charge for the traffic, and if we looked at what kind of traffic we would have.
How did they transport that? It was 800, you said.
Yeah.
So they had a series of towers. Or?
Yeah, they had their own towers, naturally, and they had redundant two sets of redundant head ends, if you will. One in Louisville, Kentucky, if I remember correctly, and one up, I guess, in not far from their building in Illinois. It was a well done system. And IBM was, very happy with it. So the problem was, if you looked at how much it would cost, we're trying to get the cost of this thing down to the minimum, and the polling was pretty heavy. Yeah. So we came up with the theory. I'm not sure which one of us did. Why don't we see if we can do a different rate day and night?
Alarm on, alarm off.
Yeah, so when you close at night, you go into a faster mode.
Right. And that's still in UL, if I recall.
Yeah.
They still have that capability, yeah. Oh, is that right? Okay.
Went to UL.
Yeah.
Isaac was there at the time. And we went to the Burglary Council. Well, I have to go through the Burglary Council. We made a proposal to the Burglary Council. They said it was great. Yeah, it was new technology. There's no reason why you should be polling at that high rate all day long. Right. Probably didn't have to poll at all during the day. But we worked it out that we would do a certain number of polls per hour randomly.
Right. Okay.
But so the cost would come way down.
Right.
And I'm sure that if the place closed earlier and it was at 4 o'clock rather than 8 o'clock or something like that, they probably ate the extra time. But they were happy because they wanted to get more units out there. So Silent Watchman now had this. It was blew everybody away. The rest of National Guardian says, wait, what about us, right? The branches all wanted it. All the central stations wanted it, so it became everywhere. And, you know, it was used everywhere, and it was terrific. I don't know what else I could say about it, but we had a lot of fun with that. I had it set up that if you put in a unit, we had these test units out there. It was exactly the same as all the other units, but it didn't have all the, you know, the burglary stuff. It just was an on-off kind of thing, and you could send a signal to Orlando, my office in Orlando, and if you got a signal back,
Right.
you knew it would work. So you could go outside a job.
Right.
Before you went in, they try to sell it to them. You
Right.
hit this thing, it works.
Right.
I can go in there and sell them the system. And matter of fact, we had a meeting in Hawaii. The sales group met in Hawaii. I wasn't invited to that one. Later on, I used to go to those meetings, but that one, they were sending signals from Hawaii. Artists had, towers there. So anyway, those were my years at National Guardian, and it was great until we had to sell it to Ameritech. Ameritech made me an offer, but I didn't take it.
Yeah, you went through the same feeling that I did, because we, in the industry and the associations, were fighting the R-Box.
Yes.
And then we found out we are one.
We are one. We are one. Right.
That was a big surprise.
Yeah, and they were grandfathered in, because if you remember, there was a 5-year exclusion. They couldn't get into the alarm industry,
Yeah.
but it happened before they bought, right on the cusp there, before they bought National Guardian. So they were grandfathered in. But when they sold to Southwest and Bell, the exclusion was in force, so they had to sell it. I guess they sold it to Tyco, right?
Yeah.
Which ADT. Had I stayed, I'd probably be back at ADT. Probably not for long though. And I don't know if ADT did anything with AGAR. Maybe you know. Did they do anything with AGAR? Did they just let it go? Or
It
was beyond their capabilities?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Silent Watchmen, did they have their own technicians and their own
Yes.
central station and everything?
This is before they were acquired by National Guardian.
Right.
They had all that, and so they would go. They would actually send a crew if they had sold this. They were in Columbus, Ohio, by the way.
Right.
If they had sold a system to J.C. Penney's in Southern California, they would dispatch these guys. They would go out there 3-4 days, do what they had to do, and go back.
Right.
It was very unusual.
Inefficient. Yeah.
Very inefficient.
Yeah.
So when it was bought by National Guardian, now the National Guardian technicians were the local guys doing the service.
Right.
But all the signals went back to Columbus, Ohio.
So they actually maintained several central stations.
National Guardian?
No, not National Guardian.
No,
but
no.
Silent
Silent
Watchmen
Watchmen
had
had
their
one.
own.
In
Right,
Columbus,
so they had their
Ohio.
own, and then they never combined the two? Silent Watchmen to...
I think, as far as I know, in National Guardian had several central stations,
Yeah.
Right,
and they kept that one.
right, but they never put the Silent Watchman central station into a National Guardian facility.
I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
They ran it separately.
They ran it
We
separate.
had in our office here in San Francisco, Silent Watchmen moved in, and they had their own offices, their own section, but we were all, in the same building
Right,
over
right.
here on Barneville at that time. There is one other big acquisition about 3M. Do you want to mention?
Well, yeah, 3M, they had a dealer program in
Right.
Minneapolis. Craig Lizer ran it.
Oh, Craig Lizer, wow, yeah.
And
Al Reynolds, I think, rings a bell from 3M. Al Reynolds, does that sound familiar?
It sounds familiar
It
to
does,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
He had his own sales crew and all that. They would recruit dealers.
Right.
And I think we gave him the ability to use AGARD from them. That's aside. But Well-Run was great, a great thing.
So how did 3M tie into National Guardian?
Well, no, they wanted to get rid of this.
They didn't want the alarm.
They didn't want the alarm, so they just
Business.
sold it off.
So 3M, I remember 3M bought a company in Boston, Calls Alarm, Ben Calls.
Yes, I remember.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember.
And then I thought it went to Wells Fargo.
Well, maybe.
And then it went to where?
Well, we had the monitoring. I don't know about how the rest of the program, where that I really don't
Right,
remember.
but I remember it was a dealer program.
It was a dealer program. They had hundreds
Yeah.
of dealers.
Yeah,
A lot of contention sometimes between the National
Yeah.
Guardian and regular,
right. So I
stores.
didn't realize the tie between 3M and National Guardian.
Well, I mean, the tie was they sold the company.
Yeah.
And beyond that, they
Right.
basically divested themselves of it. They had a very, very nice central station up in
Minneapolis,
Minneapolis.
near the railroad tracks.
Yeah, they had to move it a couple of times.
Did they?
Yeah. The last one I remember was an old building that it was wood,
Right.
huge wood beams, and IBM had UL had to come in and look at the beams and all that, but they
The fire
decided
and-
their fire would never burn these things. It was so big.
Right.
They were happy with the wood beams. Anyway, Craig Lizer would be a great person to talk to about that. But that was, I got along very well because they loved the fact that I would get these discounts on equipment, and they could use that discount.
Sure, right.
So that attracted more dealers,
Yeah,
if you will, right?
Right. So it trickled down.
Yeah.
So then, Security Link continued on, and of course, did then go into Tyco and merged with ADT. So, but you were already on, I guess, another track doing consulting.
Well, what happened? I left January '96. I left Security Link when I did not accept their offer, and I started consulting and number of clients. Do some extra witness work. It's kept me going since 1997. 96. Sorry, 96.
Yep.
And I'll never look back.
Can you talk a little about Currier Smith?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe Currier Smith is really the founder of the digital communication.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Well, there were others then. There was Franklin, if I remember correctly.
I think Currier Smith was
Cisco.
before Franklin,
There might have
before
been.
Cisco,
Might have been. I could tell you some.
before Akron.
Well, that was about 1975.
Right. Yes, 72 maybe.
Well, they
74.
might have been, but maybe they were earlier than that. But
Right. So they became part of Microwave Associates.
that's correct.
But prior to that, there were a separate company
Right.
in Bedford.
Right.
Right.
I used to go up there all the time.
So you remember the location in Bedford
Yeah.
on Alfred Circle.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember the address, but all I remember is I would get on the shuttle from LaGuardia and go up
Eastern
on
Airlines.
Eastern on the shuttle, go up to Logan,
Yeah.
rent a car and drive out there. And I
Right.
would be the first. I would get there before the people that got there.
Right.
Their employees got. They would wait for them to show up. But
And was it a little mom pop?
yeah, Currier Smith was, I believe, the founder's mother's maiden name or something like that. There's a tie-in, or sounds like a great title, isn't it, Currier Smith?
Right.
But it was somebody's maiden name, and they made this equipment, and was a little on the expensive side.
$450
Yeah,
for a 4-channel T8.
oh, God,
It was the
I can't
model
remember
of
the
it?
job. It was a T something, yeah.
T8.
It'll
$450.
It was a vice president of marketing of National Guardian, I'm sorry, ADT, I'm missing companies, ADT, who thought it was the cat's meow. He said, this is going to revolutionize the industry, and he was right. ADT being a very old, staid company, they only believed in direct wire McCullough,
Right.
and you can't.
Right.
It's not supervised. You can't use it. It was like
Right.
it was.
We all
damned.
thought that.
It was all damned. You can't. It's not supervised.
Right.
Little did I know. I mean, it's all business. You could do your residential. Where were the third-party monitoring companies being
Right.
out the digital dialers?
Right.
Revolutionized the industry. Not super. I remember that call. I used to go to these management meetings. Not supervised. We can't have that. I wish I remember the man's name. He had a Polish name. You remember it? The marketing guy
From ADT.
Yeah. Anyway, but it was expensive.
Right.
So the owner, I guess, of Currier Smith had this young engineer with him who his job was to make this thing as cheap as possible.
So this is before Microwave Associates?
Before Microwave
Okay.
Associates, probably one of the reasons Microwave Associates bought them. And there's a tie-in there to somebody else you're probably gonna come up with in a minute, but
Right.
he,
Which I just discovered this tie
oh really?
to all these people
Oh yeah,
recently.
really, no kidding. That's funny. So this young engineer sits there at his drawing board and tries to figure out how he's gonna get cost out of this thing. One of the things he comes up with is
Pulling out
instead of
components.
Yeah, well, instead of a 12-volt battery, he uses a 6-volt battery, much cheaper battery. Everything, power comes down.
Well, current goes up,
Well, yeah, but no, not necessarily.
voltage goes.
No, but it
Currents.
depends on what the load is. So he's now he's got that part licked, and he's saying things like pull-up resistors and forget the pull-up resistors. Yeah, I didn't really.
Off
know.
the transistor?
Yeah. Pennies here, pennies there. And what else did he
So
do?
that would load the transistor down.
Well,
if you do.
you would have, well, if you're trying to,
Without the resistor,
without the resistor, the voltage should go up, with the resistor, it should go up to the, whatever power supply you have. But
So he
it
pulled
goes up
the-
enough that,
so he would pull the resistor up.
anyway, no resistors, no pull-up resistors, I remember that. And a lot of the TTL logic was supposed to run at 5 volts.
VCC, yeah.
He's now running at like 3.4 volts. And he met his price goal. It was really cheap. Sort of worked, but we were trying to have some noise problems. And so again, I get involved in this thing, and I went in there and I said, my God, you can't, if it wasn't maybe for the pull-up resistors, the TTL logic would have worked, except there's a couple of chips in there that were very voltage sensitive. And I talked to, they use TI chips, so I talked to the people at TI who basically confirmed what I was saying. So that was the problem. Okay.
Was the device originally intended for the alarm industry? Or was it intended
You know what,
for...
I don't, I would imagine it was, I don't know, but ADT decided that it needed a new version of it, and they made a newer version that would work better, that didn't have all these problems. And at the same time, I think Ray Carey was on the board of Microwave Associates.
And Larry Gould
Larry Gould
was on the board of ADT.
Well, maybe so. Was that
Right.
true? I know.
I
Ray
believe
was on
so. I believe so.
And anyway, so he's looking around and he found this young engineer that worked for him by the name of Steve Roth.
Right. Steve
Okay.
was another connection with
Right.
Courier Smith.
So Steve, go run
So
Courier
Steve
Smith.
was an engineer?
He was an engineer, yeah.
I thought he was a marketing,
Well, I think he,
more of an engineer. Okay, I didn't realize. Okay.
anyway, so now he's running
Courier Smith.
Courier Smith,
Under Microwave Associates.
Microwave Associates.
Do you remember going to Microwave Associates?
The
and
company
seeing-
itself, no. I only dealt with Courier Smith.
Right, so do you remember actually going to Courier Smith, Microwave Associates, going in and then seeing the Courier Smith, because it was a chain link fence area, it was fenced in, do you recall that?
That I don't recall.
Okay.
It was in the,
It was in Microwave Associates.
okay. Well, don't forget, we were manufacturing them ourselves. We got the rights to manufacture them in Clifton.
Oh, interesting, I didn't realize
That's
that.
part of this deal. So we started
Okay,
manufacturing
got
our
it, so it was a
own.
licensing deal.
Yeah,
Okay, and they were manufacturing it where?
in Clifton, New
Ah,
Jersey.
interesting, okay, I didn't realize that.
And it worked pretty well.
Right,
Yeah, we got the glitches out of it.
right.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that technology revolutionized our industry.
It really did.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the digital communicator, even today with IP transmitters, really that was the start of it.
Exactly.
The
IP, whatever, cellular,
Yeah.
all that. Just new versions, if you will,
Right.
of that technology. The third-party monitoring companies work. And how many accounts are monitored with third-party monitoring companies
Right.
versus
it would be non-existent
Yeah.
without the digital communicator.
right?
right.
You can
As a
say
matter of
the
fact, we were talking to Jay Hahn, and at one time, 154 central stations?
Oh,
Did
yes,
they have?
they had a lot.
Right,
But
ADT had?
Yeah, a lot.
And
everywhere.
think about it, they would have had 154 today without the digital communicator.
In New York City, there was one on Long Island, and
Right.
Jersey, in Long Island City, they were very.
Now, you
what-
had
what
tied
planes.
to homes at one time, didn't you?
Well, no, what happened was National Guardian, when National Guardian sold to LEP, George Flagg and oh my God, VP of Marketing, Sales and Marketing, Jim Bain, went to homes. They ran homes.
That's right.
And they asked me if they would join them, and I said, I said, I'll consult for you, but I didn't want to go there. And they came up with their own, remember AGOT, I was talking about AGOT, they had HomesNet.
I remember that.
Because somewhere along the line, the exclusivity went away, so they built HomesNet. In fact, that
So-
email that I sent you might have been labeled as HomesNet.
You did, but I didn't realize the tie between National Guardian and homes.
Well, I don't know if that's a tie, but
It wasn't a good one. Ultimately, as our employees kept being stolen and moved over to homes, National Guardian sued homes.
Oh,
And it ended, I don't remember exactly what, somewhere I've got, it may even be in your museum, a binder that thick that's the whole Holmes lawsuit.
really,
I recall seeing it.
So that's the whole story from beginning to end, and yeah, it a lot of people left. They said they took information over there, and you know there was a big lawsuit, and it was settled at some point. I know, but anyway.
yeah, but so I guess that eventually got sold to ADT.
Well, they did, so we're all back into one big
Right,
happy family,
right.
right along with all
Right.
the
And it continues even to this day,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
We think it's all new, but it just keeps
Keeps
repeating.
Yeah.
evolving.
Yeah. Well,
That's my story.
I
Great
think
story.
maybe one other little thing. So now you've come to this point, of course, and you've spent a lot of time in the alarm associations, and you are semi-retired, or
I guess so. I
Guess so.
I mean,
I think that's debatable.
I know
see you more now,
Michelle
yeah.
has been with you now for
27 years.
27
Yeah,
years,
wow.
and
Just slightly less than you guys. I
Yeah.
went to your wedding, May after we got married.
Right, right.
so what do you see in the future?
Well,
How'd you like to wrap this up?
how would I like to wrap it up? I think I think the future is up to those at the cellular companies and all the other companies in the communications industry, because the communications part of this thing drives the industry. One of the things I've spoken about many times at the CSAA or at TMA meetings is Moore's law, talking about how many transistors, how that affects it.
The doubling
The
effect.
doubling effect of transistors. And the guy that invented the integrated circuits, I guess, at Intel, came up with that.
Yeah.
Moore is his name. And that's one of the drivers, because as you get more and more chips, or more and more transistors on a chip, you can do more. Most of the time now you're writing software for it, because they're little computers. And that, and plus what's going on with the communications part, that's what's driving the industry. I think we just follow that, right? So our future may be not in our hands, but we have to watch what's going on. Yeah. When I came to ADT, 1973, it was so backward, and I'm sitting there, and from an R&D environment for all those years, the best that America had as far as technology is concerned. We had, Intel had built the 4004, which was the first microprocessor. We were trying to figure out how to use it.
The round one.
Oh, I guess it was. Yeah. Anyway, I think it came in different packages, but nonetheless, 4004 was a 4-bit microprocessor. You theoretically could use it.
Yeah.
We was trying to figure out how we're going to use this thing. I know it's going to be good, but how do you use it? And then I come into this world of direct wire and the color. Although I quickly learned that there was a lot of ingenious people behind it, how they could transmit different signals over direct wire, like the hold up and how you could find a trouble. And so I said, it isn't so bad. And the color, of course, is a unique thing. 1882 was developed,
Right. Yeah.
right?
Based on the telegraph network.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. This New York City police stations around New York City were all in the color. And I hope I helped move that in my own little way to to more newer technology. But that's where it's going to go. God knows where we're going to be in 100 years.
What do you think of transmitting primary alarm traffic over Wi-Fi? Because I'm seeing more and more panels
Yeah.
using Wi-Fi as a primary. I don't necessarily feel comfortable.
Only to the, when you say
Central
primary,
station.
to the central station of a Wi-Fi. But is there a link all the way to the central station?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
So the link is it's Wi-Fi
yeah.
and then IP to the central station.
Okay, so it's going Wi-Fi to the control center.
Right. So, and I guess my question would be the Wi-Fi portion of it.
I don't see anything wrong with it if it follows the rules of
Yeah.
how everything's backed up and so on and so forth. It's a pretty robust.
Yeah. So you're comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it as long as it's properly backed up and all.
Right.
Why not?
All right.
Now, one other thing, you two worked together for some time too, on and off several
Well,
times.
I
right?
wasn't in his realm. I was handling customer service for 14 years.
So the two of you worked together. I mean, you crossed paths.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he was the leader. I mean, we saw him, and I've got videos that we're going to put in the museum.
Really?
From the big celebrations that they would do, and flag would be up there, and you and Bame and everybody who had something to say, and you were always covering the technical part. But those were essentially, I think, designed for the salespeople.
Right.
The best. They would take them away to an island or a country or someplace for a special celebration. Then they would get the executive report, and Lou was right up there.
So I think without question, Lou, you helped to move that along significantly, right?
Well, I hope I helped.
Yeah. I don't think there's any question on that. So,
Yeah.
well, this is great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed
Yes, I
it. It's
did.
very enjoyable just to sort of understand how things progressed and how these connections came together, right? That's the exciting part. It's trying to figure out the crossovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Lou.
Yeah, this is great.
A real pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This is great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.